And we are live.
Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Radowski and Jason Bermesee of WeAreChange on Sunday, November 4th, 2018, 7 p.m. Eastern, here for our live show, which, of course, is live on Facebook, Periscope. The podcast of this episode is available on iTunes later, and mainly, of course, we are here on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WeAreChange, where your super chats come first because they keep us completely free and independent and not corporate shield for any bigger agenda to divide and conquer you and use emotional psychological weaponry against you in order to export more power and control for ourselves or someone paying us. That's just another way of saying thank you for keeping us free and independent and being here for you guys. And we're going to be here for about an hour to 2 hours, and we're going to be mainly covering the most important news that happened all the way from Monday to today, Sunday, with as well your phone calls, which is exciting. We actually took phone calls, last week at the same time, and it actually went off pretty incredibly, Jason, and there was a lot of good questions and a lot of good dialogue that was actually exchanged, and holy cow, I was surprised.
Yeah, it was great. I've taken a couple of calls now throughout. It's good times, my friend, and I'm excited to get more of those, especially the intelligent, well-thought-out ones, the ones that want to have an open discussion. And I know you had some open discussions this week. You talked to the big Cernovich. If people haven't checked that out, it's a pretty good 10-minute plus interview. And then you were talking to an expatter out in Bogota. So really good interviews, really good insights, and I really enjoyed the work you did this week, Luke.
Well, it's definitely interesting, especially the expat that I interviewed. He is the editor of the Pan Am Post, which is kind of a online news publication down there. They are kind of right-wing, so it was interesting to hear their kind of perspective on what's happening in Colombia. Colombia was fascinating. This week I came from Colombia, went to Las Vegas. Now, obviously, you see I'm back here in the crap hole that is known as New York City, more known as Brooklyn, specifically here. But today, yeah, it's been a crazy week, man. It's been just like nonstop work. I was at the dentist, got a lot of amazing dentistry work done for so cheap. I saved a whole bunch of money by not going with U.S. medical extortion gulag therapy, as I would like to call it. Seriously, one thing that I found fascinating, Jason, the vast amount of difference between American dentistry and Colombian dentistry was wild. It was like completely 180 degrees opposite of each other. We've been talking about even getting you down there to help fix some of your teeth.
Yeah, listen, man, the entire medical industry is such a racket that the fact is you can have a great job and a good quote unquote medical benefits package, and that might not include dental. And then it could include dental, and you're paying an extra, $20 a week, and that comes to $80 a month. And then it really
I wish that was the case.
Well, hold on. But then it only covers, 2 cleanings a year and like half of a filling. As soon as you get into the root canals and the caps and you get implants, they say that that's all cosmetic. But the bottom line is nobody's hiring anybody with no teeth, Luke. Okay? If you seriously think about it, if you're a guy that gets assaulted on the street, it happens, and you get your teeth knocked out, well, that's gonna impact your ability to not only socialize with other people, but get work. And that's not cheap. You're going to have to go to court for it. I'm just saying,
and there's so many times that tooth infections come out. And, there's even rare cases where they even go from your heart to your mind and your brain and kill people. And I had major tooth infections from failed root canals that were done here in New York City, supposedly professional dentistry office here in New York City. And they messed up the job. They did it wrong, and they kept reinfecting my teeth, and they kept throwing antibiotics at me every time they could. And I told them, what is wrong? This is a racket. This is really, really horrible. I actually talked to some dentists in Texas, because when I was in Texas last week, everything flared up and there was a lot of pain and a lot of discomfort. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? And they're like, yeah, you had 2 root canals done, and they were all done improperly. And they even told me there's some dentists out there who do things improperly so they could get more money, so they could continue to have more customers. And they're messing with my life, literally destroying my gut, destroying my overall health, trying to, just put me on so many antibiotics. And again, already there's superbugs being created because of all the antibiotic use being out there, and antibiotics are horrible for you. And these guys, either they were extremely incompetent, which is just as bad as being just extremely sinister in this kind of bigger business model practice that I got caught up in here in New York City. I actually emailed the dentistry office that messed everything up, and they just cut off all communication. It's like I'm confronting a politician now. I'm gonna go in there probably with a bunch of video cameras, kick down the door, being like, "What the hell? Answer some gosh darn questions right now, because you guys messed up my life." And luckily, I have a bunch of freaking flyer miles. I'm able to fly down to somewhere like Colombia, and it doesn't cost me anything. And the cost of dentistry there is 1/3 of the price of what it is here, and it is so much more better, and it is so much more effective, and it is so much more comfortable. I documented all of that in my Instagram post. You can go on my Instagram, WeAreChange, and check that out. But finished some dentistry work, went to Las Vegas for a very weird Bitcoin conference, World CryptoCon, that actually banned Josh Sigurdsson and Jeff Berwick, the dollar vigilante. Josh Sigurdsson is World Alternative Media. Josh told me that they called alternative media Nazis and said that they weren't welcome to cover their event. I remember trying to cover their event. They told me I couldn't be there. Someone had a free pass, gave it to me. I went there anyway, and it was a complete crap hole. Barely anyone was there. And a lot of people were dissatisfied with the kind of new PC police, a part of crypto, who, of course, isolated a lot of people because of their kind of outlook in PC culture and being politically correct, which was just utterly ridiculous and left a bad taste on a lot of people's mouths. So I was only there for a day, and then I got out of there. So that's been my week so far, Jason. How's your week been?
My week's okay. Mine doesn't change as much as I'm not going to Bogota,
Yeah.
So
you should get the rest of your dental work done. I still have more work to do. I'm just only beginning here, Jason.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And whenever you talk about these big industries, whether it be, you talked about somebody that told you that some dentists are doing these things on purpose so they can get you to return again and again and again. And then you expressed how they just cut you off because there's not a lot of recourse. I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to file some kind of a civil suit against him? All of a sudden, it's on you. There's so much to go through. You could become a big loser.
I'm really thinking about it because, and if there's any lawyers out there, definitely let me know. They messed up my teeth for years and have been messing it up at an extreme level. Close to ruining my life, close to destroying my health, destroying my gut flora. This is something extremely major. So that's even a possibility, Jason, to be honest with you, because I don't want them hurting anyone else. And it was only because of the information I knew about, medical tourism, about getting work done in different countries and having the ability to, which other people don't. And if someone else was in my position, their life would be completely ruined and they would be in huge amounts of debt for work that wouldn't be done right. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, hey, man, if you want to do that, I'm all for it. That's pretty brave of you because, again, you could be eating even more financial problems. It's a lot to do. You see this in any big industry. I mean, you see it with cars, for instance. You bring your car in and you don't know what's going on. The mechanic will fix something but mess something up, so you'll have to be back in a couple weeks and you're paying even more. Oh, didn't notice that was going. And the medical industry. Oh, you're depressed? Well, that's great because I've got 20 different things that I can prescribe to you. And as each one doesn't work, we'll just try the next. Get a little kickback shenanigans. And, some of these people are paying so much back in school bills. They're not making as much. That pinch is hurting them. And it's creating more and more dishonesty in the medical industry. It's quite scary, Luke.
Yeah, and every day I go to whatever medical facility here in the United States, there's always these pill-popping little weasel executives with their little purses trying to throw the doctor more pharma pills, being like, but this pill covers this and this pill covers this, and you should buy more pills from us and sell them to your patients. And I'm like, what the hell? It's all a big industry. You're the product. You're going to be the victim out of this, and you're going to be the one screwed out of this unless we finally start paying attention to the absolute horrors of this industry and the buttholes who are able to take advantage of it because no one else is paying attention to it. So dentistry is one part of it. I still have to finish my entire report on Colombia, which I'm doing right now, specifically for our sponsors. But Jason, before we get to some of the super chats, is there a way to actually send in the phone number, the call-in number for the show? Is there any way to send that to our members specifically only on YouTube?
Yeah, I could give it to you, and then if you wanted to, you can go to the community tab on our YouTube page and then create a post. And by creating that post on the community page, you have the option to send that out only to members. So
all right, let's do that.
All right, so I will send you that while you're ranting and raving right now.
Wait, could you send it to them as I do the bigger story?
Hold on. Let me see if I can get right on our YouTube page. Sorry, folks. I don't want, because right now I'm gonna go and it's gonna play that right here. So do I have access to the community tab right now because we're live?
I think you should. Yeah. You just have the same access as I do. We also have some super chats. Let's just try to also get into some of those.
Yeah, talk about that and I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, we have one super chat by Z Muhammad, who said nothing really. He just gave us $1.99. Thank you so much, Z Muhammad. We got another super chat by Patrick Segon, and he says Abby Martin is more credible on Colombia and Venezuela. So Abby Martin has a different perspective than, of course, we do. Both of us, Abby Martin, went to Colombia and Venezuela and did her reporting. I did my reporting from another particular aspect. Abby Martin does work for Telesur, which does get financed by some institutions that help, I believe, kind of have a little conflict. But again, that's just a personal disagreement that I would see a conflict in, especially if I was going to somewhere like a foreign country and being paid by a specific foreign country or a specific foreign interest. It's pretty clear that, Abby's kind of ideology is on the left wing. I'm a little bit more on the right wing, to be completely honest, because it's anti-government, and Venezuela is a leftist kind of government. And on that point, I'm being put as a right-wing person because I'm against government. Mainly, I'm against all government, whatever government it may be, and that's basically my main kind of principal stance. So I'm not always on the same kind of talking points as other people as you see out there. We got another super chat by Z Muhammad saying, what do you think of Alex Jones? And oh, Lordy, that's a whole another big question that we've gone into a lot of times, Jason, on this show in particularly as well. And we are definitely not fan. I'll speak for myself. Are you still there, Jason?
No, Luke, I left the program and you're on the air alone. Of course, I'm still here. Okay. And we have sent the number out, by the way, to members, but I do have the do not disturb on, but we will let you know when we're taking calls.
Okay, awesome. I think we should maybe even take a phone call before we get into the main story. Yeah, obviously I'm personally not a fan of Alex Jones. I don't believe in some of the things he pushes out there. I do believe that there's a lot of sensationalism. I disagree with a lot of the things that he kind of pushes out there. He's his own person. I think he did a lot of good work previously before, but I'm definitely not a current fan of him with him switching his main principles and virtues to be more pro-government, pro-authoritarian when he was more pro-freedom before. So disagree with him and his tactics and especially his business model. Do you want to take that one or do you want to get to the next one, Jason?
No, I'll weigh in because, there's a lot of people out there that may just be coming across us because of something like InfoWars. In that regard, Luke, I'm still pretty happy that media outlet exists. Let me first say that. I would say it's still more honest than, NBC, MSNBC, CNN, even Fox News. But he's aligned himself so far to the right, the mainstream right, and recanted so many of the things that he used to preach against. I mean, he used to really not talk about, being a conservative and voting for Republicans, and these midterms that are coming up, for instance, would have been really a false paradigm issue. And they really are a false paradigm issue, because guess what, folks? No matter who wins in the next couple days, we ain't leaving Syria, we ain't leaving Afghanistan either. We're not going to stop the rhetoric against Iran, and none of our Middle Eastern policy is going to change whatsoever. So guess what? They don't want to talk about that anymore. It's really upsetting to me. And the way that things have been spun there recently is quite disturbing. So I'll just say this, I don't personally have anything against the guy. I don't like, for instance, that he lied when he fired Joe Biggs. I've never talked negatively about the guy, and he said that I left there because I had $1 million movie deal. I can assure you that's not the case. Luke, if I had $1 million movie deal, you think I might have even told you? I would have been like, Luke! I did it! We did it! We're making it! $1 million movie deal! But the truth of the matter was, I'd kept my place in New York. I've always wanted to be more of a documentary filmmaker than even a, radio or video pundit. Luke can tell you that as well. That's my real heart and desire. But the bottom line is, it's hard to spend, Luke, 3 months to a year on something that maybe gets as many views as a 6-minute video you did on Jeff Bezos and Amazon. You understand? So it's tough in this day and age. So you got to pivot, but you don't have to pivot on your morals. And I feel like that's something that Alex Jones has done. And obviously, he's always had that P.T. Barnum showman about him. But I'm sorry, Roger Stone is not a good person. Paul Manafort, although he didn't deal with the Russians, is not a good person. The Trump administration is what it is. And we've got to stop apologizing for them recanting on things like staying non-interventionist, which these guys will not discuss. We are as interventionist as it gets, and they don't want to talk about it. So there's so many things wrong with Infowars.com right now, but at the same time, hey, more voices are a better thing, right, Luke?
Yeah, I mean, you could always find someone to criticize, whether it's Abby Martin or Alex Jones. There's always, things that you could say good about them, things you could say negative about them. But to me, everyone, judge everyone by the fruits of their labor, and also predominantly where they get their money. That's also a very important aspect. And you'll see what they really care about and what they put out there. And, there's good and negative things about a lot of different people. But a lot of people like to push the divide, as we could see with some of the super chats bringing in some of the discussions. And sometimes, these people are right. Sometimes they're wrong. And I think it's important to have an honest discussion that's not an emotional one, and be able to communicate about these issues. And that's what we're here to do. Even me and Jason disagree like cats and dogs all the time for absolutely no reason, except we just see things a little bit differently. And that's good, and I think that's okay, and I think that's what we need more of, not less of. We got another super chat here by Vager Bomb, and he says, in an earlier video, you mentioned that Russia and China are teaming up against the United States. I don't think they'll make a move unless they had an ace in the hole. What cards do you think they have to play? We're going to be specifically talking about Russia and China in just a little bit, so just give us a few minutes there, Jaeger Bomb. That's a pretty cool super chat name. And specifically, I don't think any of these countries, China, Russia, and the United States, want war, to answer your question in short. But I think the possibilities and the probability of them are becoming more likely, especially with China's expansion, and especially with the United States having their main superpower being this military industrial complex, spending more money on the military than any other country in the world. And those two kind of scenarios, even with the Thucydides trap unfolding in front of us, I believe have a lot of possibilities leading to a disastrous situation that is worth paying attention to. And that's why we've been focusing on it so much recently on our YouTube channel. Do you want to get to some of the next super chats, Jason?
Absolutely. And by the way, Avatar's in the members. I know he did a super chat here too, but he also just said that no country is 100% capitalist, and that's just, by being a member, and I catch that in the regular chat. I try to throw that out there, and I totally agree, by the way. This country is far from capitalist, and in fact, to me, leans more towards fascism than anything. And that doesn't mean that Trump is a fascist. That's the one thing it's not. It's not beholden to a dictator. It's not ethno-based, but it is the unification of the government and corporations. And it is like no, and we're going to get into that in a bit.
Well, I would even say, Jason, we have socialism for the rich and like crony capitalism for everyone else. That would be my take.
I don't know if I'd even call it that, because everybody's talking about quote unquote the technocracy and bureaucrats.
Not even the rich, but just for the very few interconnected corporate globalists that are a part of this whole Ponzi scheme, helping run a lot of the institutions with the help of government. To me, Jason, the problem's government, of course.
Oh, I know that's what you were about to say, but I'll say a different thing. And I know, we should see where Cindy Sheehan's at these days, because she was a lovely woman, interviewed her way back in the day, great activist, but she referred to these people as the robber baron class. Not government, not corporations, just something they had in between and something they had in common, Luke. They're robber barons. That's what they are. And there needs to be justice for that class. Without checks and balances, we're never going to get it in the system that we have. We've already seen that there are two separate rules for, the plebes like us and the elites like, we confront. So I'm going to jump into these other super chats because we continue to get them. And we really appreciate this, guys. Hey, we haven't even gotten into the news yet. We got to be 20 minutes deep in the program. We love talking to you. Kyle DaCosta, what up, though? Well, let me tell you what's up, Kyle. We are changes in the house, talking about all the news that you didn't hear this week. And, Luke's got a lot of foreign policy to talk about. I promise you, when we get into this week's stories, there's some mind-blowing stuff no one's talking about. Avataz, another super chat. He's a member, by the way, $4.99. Subscribers, members, they help us out a lot, guys. Hey, guys, channels get deleted for super chats now. Something we briefly covered last week, correct? Look at Smiles over there. Luke Smiles McGinty right over there.
I'm reading the next super chat, and I'm excited for you to read the next super chat.
Okay, because you'll probably read it better, but yes, yeah, that's going to be tough for me. But anyway, not only are they getting deleted, but the super chats aren't being given to the creators anymore. Listen, we're not trying to get...
And now channels are being deleted? I never heard about this.
Well, that's what he's saying, and I think it's a lot of toxic super chats that then get fed into by the hosts. We're never going to feed into the toxic super chats. We want honest discourse, great discussions, and good times. And that's why Mr. Phosphoric has this super chat that says, Pozdowania Z Polski. And Luke, what's it really say?
How do you say it?
I says Pozdowania Z Polski. How about that?
That's not. Come on, try to pronounce it here.
Pozdrowienia Z Polski.
Pozdrowienia Sporski.
Pozdrowienia Sporski?
Repeat after me, Jason.
What am I saying, first of all? What am I saying?
Pozdrowienia.
What? Prostovenia?
You got this. I believe in you, Jason.
Yeah.
Pozdrowienia.
Pozdrowienia.
This is Sporski.
This is Borski.
This
is fun. All right. Next super chat. Thanks for that, guys.
I appreciate that, Mr. Phosphoric.
Z Muhammad says, is China, Russia, and Iran going to be the new axes of evil? Remember,
looks like it. You could add Syria to that country as well.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Iran was part of the original axis of evil, which North Korea, what was on there? Iraq, and was Afghanistan? That was post-Afghanistan, wasn't it? The axis of evil?
I'm not sure. I'm going to look it up really quickly.
Yeah, I know North Korea, Iran, and Iraq were part of the axis of evil. And there's another country. It may have been Syria, by the way. Look it up. But listen, China and Russia are none of those countries I just mentioned. China and Russia are world powers, global powers, military, economic powers. They're on another level. And this isn't 2003. It's 2018. The game has changed quite literally. Luke, you find that info?
I'm looking at it right now. Criticism of Iraq. Where is this? Iraq, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, Libya, Syria.
Cuba, Libya, and Syria. So, yeah, Syria was in there. I did not get Cuba and Libya. That's crazy that they put Cuba in there. Listen, there is hope because obviously North Korea and Cuba are no longer part of the axis of evil. But again, China and Russia are nowhere near those countries and those countries 15 years ago. You're not just going to dominate China or Russia the way we dominated Libya. I promise you that. All right, Samantha Brown, interested in Mexico and those who are leaving or trying to leave there for asylum, but I see some U.S. citizens seeking to leave the U.S. to go to Mexico. Well, the truth of the matter is, Luke, and I know you're going to love to handle this one, that the majority of the caravan, at least right now, are, South America. It's not Mexico. I'm sure some Mexicans will be at that border when they get to the crossing. But Luke, why don't you field that one?
We had a good argument about that right before getting on the show. I don't know if we should re-engage in that one. To be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of benefits to expatriating, while, of course, a lot of people want to also get into the United States at the same time. It really depends on what your personal preferences are, but obviously a lot of political turmoil in Latin America, which has been caused because of U.S. interventionism and because of U.S. foreign policy plaguing the decisions that other countries have been making, supporting different groups over other groups, mainly dictators by the United States in those Latin American countries, has caused a big, massive destabilization effort, which, of course, has created also a lot of conflict. Even in the country that I was in recently, Colombia. Colombia has been screwed over by the United States time and time and time over, all throughout history. And the trend continues. And this effort is one of the reasons why there's a lot of chaos. One of them, not all of them, but a lot of chaos and a lot of and life isn't as plentiful and wonderful as it is in the United States, depending on what states. Because here in the United States, we also have a huge rise in the police state. We also have a huge rise in a lot of taxes, in a lot of fees, and a lot of people would argue we're becoming less and less free. And I would agree with that, and that's why I send my monkey butt down to Mexico anytime an opportunity I get to, because it's probably going to be where I'm going to be living and expatriating myself. And that's why we're also documenting my expatriating journey through our email list. If you haven't signed up on that, sign up on WeAreChange.org, and I'm going to be documenting all the list. I'm working on the Colombia report as we're speaking right now, giving you all the details about all the important information you need to know about moving down to Colombia. So it definitely looks like there's going to be a big switch over from the population of Mexico and Americans moving away from what is always, of course, government, Jason, because that is always the bigger problem that humanity has to deal with.
I'm sorry. Oh, that's right. No, Peter Thiel is now the technology advisor, so he is in government. I forgot. Yeah. Peter Thiel actually trended for a little while on Twitter this week, too, due to one of the, I can't remember what the conference name was, but some people were slamming Thiel, kind of Me Too movement-ish, because he's notorious for having, men serving big parties naked from the waist down. I'm just saying. I didn't post that stuff. Oh, yeah. Come on, dude. Don't you know how this thing works? Don't you know how the world works?
It surprised me. He goes to Bilderberg.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying he's a powerful guy.
He took down BuzzFeed.
He may sexually exploit people. And since, he's a homosexual, he would do that to men, Listen, guys have been exploiting women forever. And to think that guys who prefer guys aren't exploiting guys, you'd also have to be pretty naive. All right, let's get one more of these super chats in, and we'll be taking super chats the entire time, guys. Thank you so much. Definitely not a Russian bot, and by the way, just that name probably got that super chat taken away. Cuba will probably get nukes. I think it's almost irrelevant at this point if Cuba gets nukes. Nuclear technology has now been around for 60 plus years. A lot of second world and into first world nations such as India and Pakistan now have nuclear weapons. I don't feel any less safe. If a nuclear weapon were to go off anywhere in the world, I would first point at who benefited most. I'm not saying it would be a United States job, but I'm not saying we would get the true narrative either. So I've never really feared the nuclear crisis, Luke. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm reading the comment section here, Jason, and Li Jiao Zhao says, replace Jason Burmis. He is a Freemason. Are you a Freemason, Jason?
No, sir. I am not a Freemason. I'm not part of any type of occultic club or adult kind of club. I like to go to the bar and have a beer with my
I think I should
friends.
add this person as a moderator.
Yeah, is that what you're gonna do? You're gonna add them as a moderator?
Please.
Free Masonic. Yeah, because I'm always flashing masonry symbols, and I'm always trying to get people to join. There are a lot of lodges in upstate New York. There's several right in my area. There's one probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 blocks away from me. I've never had any interest. How about you? Are you a Freemason, Luke? Tell the
No,
truth.
I'm not a Freemason.
Oh.
Interesting. I had like encounters with some Freemasons. It's just weird, like the initial, like the rituals that I heard people talk about. I remember touring like a Freemason lounge here when I was 18. They actually do public tours, and it was always like oh my god, we're going to the Freemason, and like trying to film secretly. Which we did, but it was always just a weird thing. Alexandro Alekin says Luke is Illuminati. Love the comment section. Sorry, I'm just getting enamored. Okay, one last super chat, and let's go to the main story that we're supposed to covering. Do you want to cover it, Jason?
Yeah, we'll get there in 1 second. So, Nicholas Peter, perfect time for me to start my lunch break. Get to listen to you, ballas. Keep hoping for your continued success, mother truckers. Well, we hope for your continued success, you great mother trucker, Nicholas Peter as well. I like the upbeat stuff because we're about to get to some pretty heavy doom and gloom global stuff. Again, while the media is, Luke, talking about, is this woman coming forward? Was she sexually assaulted by Mueller? Something we almost completely ignored because it seemed to fall into this weird left-right paradigm kind of false narrative nonsense tabloid culture that we've seen in our media increasing ever so much in the past few months, to what's really going on behind the scenes. And with that, Luke, do you want to start hitting those first stories?
Nicholas Peter says, do the Southern accent, Jason. But we could do that at a whole nother time. Okay, let's just get right into the top story today. And if you really look at the news and you look at social media, the main story today is that U.S. soldiers are putting up barbed wire between the border of the United States and Mexico. Jason, I don't know about you, but to me, this is a really big non-story. It's a little bit of piece of metal. I ran through and jumped through and got through barbed wire all the time. Other borders are protected more than just having a little bit of metal on there. But to me, this ultimately just seems like a big nothing story, to be honest, because if you want to get through barbed wire, you're just going to walk right through it. I got a big scar on my leg to prove that. But other than that, to me, this is a big distraction from bigger stories.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like this is a big story. It was funny, I'm a big UFC fan. My brother came over yesterday. He doesn't have social media, doesn't have Facebook. He's raising a brand new son, and he starts talking about this caravan coming up. And he goes, so what's going on there? And I explained to him. So he goes, so a whole bunch of people are coming up illegally, throwing rocks at people, and everybody thinks this is okay? He's like, what do they think we should do if not send troops down there? And the razor wire, ooh, it's so scary. Oh, I'm scared, Luke.
But in reality, it's ineffective and it's not going to work. And to me, this whole big story is just a big distraction towards the bigger things that are happening, including one of the biggest military drills happening right now between NATO and the United States, right on Russia's border. This is the biggest military game in 20 years happening right now. Of course, on the eve of Donald Trump threatening and talking about withdrawing from the INF treaty, the, of course, nuclear weapons treaty that the United States had with Russia. All the while, Russia is saying that they're preparing for war, and China making a very similar statement, all within just days of each other. And of course, those are all very big progress that we want to talk about in this next news segment. And a lot of the bigger geopolitical picture has been pretty much characterized as two major forces going against each other. One of them is, of course, Syria, Iran, Russia, and China. And on the complete other side, we, of course, have the United States, NATO, Israel, and Saudi Arabia. These, to me, are the two major forces that have a huge potential for conflict with each other. Why? Because there's already a lot of conflict with them. And, of course, power resources, influence is extremely important and has been battled between these forces on so many different levels, on so many different ways, whether it's through electronically, whether it's through artificial intelligence, whether it's through hacking, or whether it's through actual hand-to-hand combat, military warfare, and even space warfare, which people are actively talking about. So this is something that I wanted to address. And the alliance with the United States, Israel, NATO, and Saudi Arabia has been shaken up just a little bit, especially with what has been happening with Saudi Arabia, that does hold a lot of global economic power, being the number one oil producer in the world. And we have seen China, Russia, as well as even Israel come to the defense of Saudi Arabia and even offer to cooperate more with Saudi Arabia, while we have seen criticism from the United States all suddenly right now calling for peace inside of Yemen. Now, this is a very contradicting story, because this was an actual issue that I debated Mike Cernovich on when Mike Cernovich said that he loved foreign policy. I disagree with Mike Cernovich in the video that we released on our YouTube channel recently. But this is one of the arguments that he made, and it does look like the United States is pushing for peace in Yemen and an end to that conflict. Now, whether it will happen or not, it is still very interesting to see this kind of event unfold, because right after the United States called for this ceasefire, this no-fly zone inside of Yemen, we saw Saudi Arabia just kind of answer back, being like, screw you, the United States, we're going to do what we want. And just after 2 days after those announcements, they bombed the living crap out of Yemen and continued the atrocities that they have been previously committing with the United States as a part of the U.S. Saudi-led coalition. And, the United States pretty much publicly called for the ceasefire in Yemen, but at the same time, they just sent more military bombs into Syria, where they just killed 14 civilians. This is reported by the Middle East Eye, which just came out a few moments ago, actually yesterday. So it just shows you the United States says one thing publicly, but at the same time, pretty much commits the same kind of atrocities as the countries that they're now supposedly criticizing, which is, again, all done in public, because there's bigger games here and there's bigger motives here. As we know, Saudi Arabia has been facing a lot of criticism because they assassinated Khashoggi, a journalist who I believe, and many other experts believe, was connected to an intelligence organization. And we found out this week that, according to Turkish officials, his body was dissolved in acid after he went to the Saudi embassy and was assassinated there for being a critic of the regime. What's interesting about this is that Saudi Arabia is now changing its story for now the 5th time and agreeing that this assassination was premeditated, which is very interesting, because Saudi Arabia, as soon as this journalist went missing in its consulate in Turkey, said they actually had no knowledge about what was happening there. Then they said that this columnist supposedly got in a fight and came off with about 10 different versions of the story. But it looks like now they're finally coming clean and are saying that Saudi Arabia did premeditatedly assassinate and kill this journalist, who was connected to, of course, intelligence agencies, who was connected to Erdogan in Turkey. And they murdered him, which was a clear violation of international law, which they have been highly critical of. Even Israel broke their silence and said that Khashoggi, this journalist's murder, was horrendous. But again, we saw this direct repositioning with, right after that, Netanyahu saying, but Iran is the bigger problem. You're seeing the priorities here. We are seeing a little shakeup in the alliance, but again, this alliance between Israel, Saudi Arabia, the United States, NATO won't be shifted. And you see the duplicitous manners of which they approach these kinds of situations, and their bigger goals to strike against each other, violating, of course, all human rights and everything that has dignity. And we have seen Netanyahu and Israel openly defend Saudi Arabia, which is no surprise for anyone here, especially if you've been watching this YouTube channel, because we've been calling out this Saudi-Israel alliance that has been going on for a very long time. That is an extremely sinister alliance that is up to no good and has been committing atrocities inside of Syria. What was also interesting this week is we saw these tensions kind of rise with even Saudi Arabia talking about how furious they were with the Washington Post's coverage of their country, to the point where even some Saudi officials were calling for the boycott of Amazon. And of course, Amazon is doing a lot of contracts with the CIA, with the U.S. Pentagon, also owns the Washington Post, also owns Whole Foods, is a major industry controlled by, of course, Jeff Bezos. And Saudi Arabia is furious that Jeff Bezos and the Washington Post even dare to criticize them, which is just absolutely shocking, which shows you the discontent and the disharmonious relationship that is still kind of figuring itself out with, of course, more conflicts being pushed for with these lines. They can't even get their story straight. They can't even work out their differences, but they're still pushing for a bigger conflict with Iran. Meanwhile, the United States is still in over 18 years now. 18 years still in the conflict in Afghanistan, which yesterday a top military commander came out and said that this war is clearly not winnable. And it hasn't been winnable. And the whole fact of it is the United States never wanted to win in that war. There is no winning. There's only control and dominance and establishing your military bases to be in there forever for global hegemony, which, of course, the world powers are all after. And it's absolutely dumb to push for this, because going through a military conflict, through war and aggression, is going to push more people away. Because when they see something unjust happening to the tune of murder, to the tune of bombings and assassinations, this, of course, will worry, panic your opposition, but also push away a lot of close allies. And we have even seen a mayor of a Utah city just killed in Afghanistan today as we're making this video. The news broke here. And it's absolutely ridiculous to have our men and women of this country still dying over there for absolutely no reason, and being absolutely lied about it. The media is not telling you the truth about the Afghanistan war. The politicians aren't telling you the truth about the Afghanistan war. But really, it's absolutely sinister what's happening there with, of course, poppy population, heroin population, and production going up dramatically, producing the world's heroin, of course, working with the CIA, and the United States knowingly turning a blind eye and empowering pedophiles in the Afghan military. You have to ask yourself, after looking at the bigger perspective of what's happening here, is what side is the United States really on? All of this information, of course, that is conveniently kept away from you by the U.S. mainstream media establishment that doesn't want you to know about these things. They also don't want you to know how the United States and Britain are being excluded from the Syria summit that is happening yesterday with, of course, Turkey, Germany, France, and Russia coming together to figure out the future of Syria, with, of course, the United States and Britain being excluded from it. There's a reason that they're being excluded from it. It's because Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the United States were the ones pushing for regime change and radicalized the global jihadists in that region. Meanwhile, they're allowing pedophiles in Afghanistan and running the drugs all throughout this entire world, the heroin more specifically. And as that's happening, and people around the world are waking up to that, except for the actual people in our country, because we're not privy to that information, that our taxes are actually being used towards that. As we're seeing that, we're seeing more propaganda for a bigger push against Iran. As we're seeing the United States even threaten SWIFT with sanctions if they don't cut off Iran. And it's important to note here that there's more talks of sanctions, more talks of economic warfare by the United States against Iran. And of course, the United States is pushing this economic warfare on them. There are some negotiations happening right now, but the United States is coming after the major payment processor and telling them that they're even going to ban them if they don't ban Iran. But as we know, Russia is even figuring out their own world payment processor, which is a different alternative to, of course, SWIFT, with the United States putting pressure on SWIFT. And what we have to understand here is now the former CIA director and now current Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is putting China and Russia on notice over, of course, Iran, because of this economic warfare that they're starting, that they don't want Russia and China interfering with. They don't want Russia and China to be closely allied with Iran, but they don't understand that their own aggressive actions are putting them close together. Iran, that is watching the geopolitical situation unfold all throughout the Middle East that they're in, is seeing this, and that's why they're cozying up with Russia and China, and that's why a lot of these sanctions that the United States wants to put on them would be usurped with, of course, their oil that they want to give out there to their countries. And of course, they're not going to participate, and it's only going to get them against the U.S. with their aggressive moves, with their aggressive push towards a bigger conflict and a bigger war. And that's why we're seeing Zero Hedge report recently that Moscow initiates de-dollarization, with India now paying for S-400 systems in rubles, of course, usurping the U.S. petrodollar, pushing India away from the United States and towards Russia and other people who are against the U.S. petrodollar. And this is only going to become more systemic with how aggressive the United States becomes. And we have to understand there is a profound global power shift happening right now, and it is happening with the United States shooting itself in the foot, creating more conflicts for supposedly more control. But that control is ultimately going to be what is going to turn the world against the United States and bring down the U.S. petrodollar and bring alliances against it that will threaten the diplomatic relationship and the current state of affairs that we have now. So to me, these Iranian economic sanctions, economic warfare, this push for a bigger Iranian war is a huge blunder by the United States, especially with the current blunders that are still unfolding in Syria, in Afghanistan, in Libya, that have proved to be absolutely ineffective and are leading down a trajectory of failure, de-dollarization, and a disharmonious human relationship to the world powers that exist on this very planet that we live on. Whew. Holy cow, that was a lot to say, Jason. But that is how I see things unfolding with this bigger geopolitical picture happening.
Well, it does seem like Russia and China are allying together on a lot of big global issues. We've already seen the dollar go by the wayside in the last 20 plus years, really be devalued. Ever since that one economic boom, you know, you were much younger than me, but I saw in my late teens, early 20s, the Clinton presidency, gas was down like under $1. It was unbelievable. 99-cent gas. The economy was booming. People were getting jobs. The tech boom was coming. The internet was coming. Everybody was telling us. And then crash. And then in 2008, crash. And then SDR units, which are special drawing rights, where we took illegitimate fiat currencies one step further and openly said we're going to loan this currency out to a lot of nations, and it's just going to be zeros and ones. And we're going to associate ourselves loosely with the dollar, but that's kind of faded away. And now with, China being an economic powerhouse, Russia still being an economic and military powerhouse, it is scary to think what could happen to our dollar, to our United States economy. Could we see a 1929 style depression? I don't know, Luke. I tend to think not. because so many people are already on the dole. You got to understand, when we were in bread lines, there wasn't a welfare system. There weren't people that were just getting things on a card. Even when I was a kid, you actually had to have food stamps, you know, like an actual stamp. They didn't give you a credit card. And now everything is so digitized, and so many people are used to being on the dole. More than 40% of this country, Luke, takes some kind of government assistance. So for me, I just think it's going to be a gradual collapse unless military action starts to be taken in places like Iran. Then all bets are off.
We have to understand our economic system is not sustainable, especially with the debt that we are involved in, especially with the debt that China owns on the United States itself. And the bigger ramifications of that is just more debt and servitude that won't be able to be fixed unless there's a whole redo, unless there's a whole, what's the word that I'm looking for here, Jason? Just the whole restart of an entire system. And a lot of failing empires throughout history, especially if they're failing economically, are more prone to cause wars and conflicts to get out of it. So people don't actually pay attention to the economic numbers. And with how brutal the United States has been at preserving the U.S. petrodollar, with more economic news and more countries turning against it, it's only going to, it's really something to really consider, really kind of worry about, something I've been worrying about. Now, whether this new economic hit is going to come in and be just as bad as the Great Depression, no one could say. I don't even want to go as far as to even saying that myself, but there are cycles that usually do happen in economic terms, and usually every 7 years, there usually is a kind of hit. There was one in 2008. Before that, it was 2001. Before that, it was 7 years before that. And there's usually an overall cycle. After 2008, we never dipped down back again. It was more artificially inflated. It was more prolonged. And we still haven't felt that dip that we were supposed to a few years ago, which makes a lot of economic experts see and say that this bigger dip is going to be a lot more heavier. Or the systems of the powers that be, the central bankers, saw it as something that the United States couldn't come back out of, and more of a bigger problem than what could be dealt with at that time. And they're trying to prolong it, but by prolonging it, they're only going to make it worse, Jason.
Well, you know, we already have a dollar that doesn't go anywhere near as far as it used to. And I'm not just talking about gas or at the grocery store. Let's take it all the way back to the beginning of this program. We were talking about medical expenses. You get away without having insurance 20 years ago. Not a big deal. You weren't going to get raked over the coals. They would see you. You never wanted to go to the emergency room or take that ambulance ride, but if you did, it wasn't necessarily going to be that crippling. And now it is crippling, and you have to pay into a system that still may be crippling or get fined at the end of the year on your tax returns. So I want to be hopeful about this economy. I want to be so hopeful that I'm wearing a MAGA hat and I'm at one of these rallies going, he did it! He did it! He defeated the New World Order. Did you see that? The man did it! Woo, son! Woo! I want to believe that. But I live in a place called reality where in upstate New York, where I am 3 hours away from the city, where I am an hour away from the border of Pennsylvania, you barely scrape by making $40K a year. And by the way, of that $40K a year, maybe you're able to keep 28, 29 of it. And then, you want to keep a car on the road. That's going to be another, $2,000, depending on how you drive. That's not putting gas in it. Oh, you got bills, you got taxes, you own a home, you got a mortgage. Forget about it. The dollar does not stretch. You better have a wife who has a good job. You better have 2 economy cars, a decent lease worked out, and great childcare for your kids at a low cost, all of which are becoming less and less available to John and Joan Q. Public. And I think all of these things are having huge economic impacts on the regular populace that you're not hearing talked about on CNN and MSNBC. And that's why in 2020, if Trump runs, he's landsliding, baby. He's landsliding into 8 years, Luke. I guarantee you that.
Let's be honest. To me, all politicians are criminals. All of them put us into more debt. Barack Obama has put us in massive debt. But guess what? Donald Trump is doing the same exact thing at almost the same level, if not more, than Barack Obama. Putting us into service by borrowing, putting us into debt. And Donald Trump and all to talk about, oh, we're doing better than ever economically. But if you look at the big global picture, it's no longer possible for one person to be able to support a family like it used to be. It's no longer possible that someone could actually move to suburbia, especially in their 20s or 30s now, and be able to afford to buy a house. That is becoming less and less likely. What we have right now is this new hipster servitude model that is being established. Many people working a large number of odd jobs, but economically, financially, more people are in debt more than ever and are having a very difficult time just making it by. That to me is a very important aspect in the economic numbers that is never really highlighted. Sure, there's a lot of employment, but there's also a crap ton of people working a larger number of jobs, especially odd ones, just to make the ends meet. So we have to understand here, to me, the economic picture is so fake. It's so not true. And, you know, to me, the bigger number here is let's look at how much debt the president puts us in, and Barack Obama put us in a whole bunch of debt. Guess what? Exact thing. And that needs to be called out. And that's why we're here as real independent media, because we're not left or right. We don't care to cater to any of that bull crap because the truth matters, especially in these bigger situations that are going to destroy this country. And trust me, if it's not the financial aspect, I don't know what else it could be that is going to bring this country down from the current position that it is in. Some of the super chats, Jason?
Yeah, let's hit the super chats, and then we'll hit the rest of the stories this week, I guess. Let's see, who do we have here next? Oh, you're going to have to do the Polish one, by the way. I can't be doing
No, I want to hear you do it. Come on.
No. But anyway, Nicholas Peter.
Come on.
Jason, is there any way to purchase all of your documentaries? Have never seen them and wish to support you. Thank you very much for that. I always enjoy your different viewpoint. Well, thank you. Right now, I think you can still get Shade from Shepard Ambellis. I don't think the InfoWars produces my films anymore. I know I haven't gotten a check in years. But I would say this. My support was always getting the film and then spreading it out there. Don't get me wrong. When I put a movie out, I like financial compensation. I want to make the next movie. But I know that you can go on torrent sites. You can find Invisible Empire. You can find Fabled Enemies, different versions of Loose Change. I recommend the Final Cut. They're all available for free on YouTube. And Shade, I think, is the only one you can still get in DVD pretty regularly. There's some on Amazon. Might be able to find it on eBay. But, hey, just these super chats alone, Nicholas Peter supporting WeAreChange, supports Jason Burmis, makes me a happy guy, and I appreciate the super chat, my friend. Would you like to say the next
one, Jason? What's the next one?
It's Mr. Phosphoric, and it's brought to you by Lukas Z. Radowski. Shoot, Luke.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jason. Sorry, I'm drinking some water. I can't read that.
Vinny Blanco, $2 super chat. Thank you so much, Vinny. You followed that one.
You say no, man. Mr. Forrest Forak gave us a super chat. You got to read it, Jason.
Why must you embarrass me in front of the foreign audience?
I'm just.
All right, we're gonna try it right now. What do we have? Polska si polityka, Luke.
Come on, you can do it.
Nope, that's it. I did it once. Thank you.
You can do better
Vinny
than
Blanco,
that.
please
you can
mention.
do better than that.
Vinny Blanco, please mention U.S. sabotage, sanctions, and destabilizations.
Hold on, we got a super chat, and it said Polska cię potrzebuje, Luke. That means Poland needs you, Luke. Thank you for allowing Jason Burmis for giving me to read that. I appreciate it and find joy in that.
I know he's enjoying it. Please mention U.S. sabotage, sanctions, and destabilization when doing that honest reporting on Venezuela. That's Vinny.
Yeah,
I know
that's a Very important aspect. I've been getting criticized about that with the latest videos that I've been doing on Venezuela and Colombia. But if you actually watch those videos, I mentioned U.S. sanctions and international sanctions hurting the people of Venezuela. I talked about the CIA's and the U.S. aids money and effort to destabilize Venezuela. I have reported on that, Vinny, and a lot of the other people. A lot of other people criticize the crap out of me, but if you pay attention to what I say in those videos, I try to mention both sides because there are both sides of the story that people do need to understand, and I did mention. Now, obviously, someone that I interviewed came off from a different perspective, but I always do my effort to give you both sides of the story, and that is something that does need to be put into consideration when talking about Colombia, Venezuela, and the bigger geopolitical picture that's unfolding in Venezuela that I have never hid from and do agree to bring up. All right, Jason, anything else you want to say, or do you want to go over Monday's story?
Let's hit the stories, my friend, because this one was a rather big one in my opinion. This is out of PBS, and they ran this headline: Yemen on the brink of catastrophic famine orchestrated by the Saudis. And in the 3-minute video clip, they actually talk not only about the Saudi Arabian regime doing this, Luke, but they talk about, well, the United States supplying the weapons, doing the arms deals, picking the targets. And after I watched this and I put this up on the Facebook, I actually also posted Rand Paul before the Senate for 25 minutes back in, I believe, June of last year. So a year and 3 or 4 months ago, warning this very thing would happen, explaining how we were picking the targets, making these deals, and also exclaiming that it would fall on deaf ears, Luke, even though he had presented this information because of how powerful Saudi Arabia and, you know, their Middle Eastern alliance, how good they are compared to Iran, how they do business here. It's all backdoor bull shenanigans, and I want to say other things, but this is a family broadcast. And it just, first of all, I'm very happy that PBS did this story. But what I'm not happy about is, even though PBS did this story, the majority of Americans have no idea we are at war with Yemen, causing catastrophe to children, women, innocent people at the behest of Saudi Arabia, Luke.
Who was it, Jason, that one man's death is a tragedy, a large number of people's death is a statistic? Was that Stalin?
I believe that was Stalin, but don't quote me on that.
This just proves the complicity and the truth of that statement, especially if you look at the controversy that was raised about Khashoggi, who was killed in Saudi, obvious tragedy. But now we're having millions of people. There's 22 million of people that need humanitarian assistance, that need water, that need food, that are being just destroyed and screwed over by the U.S. Saudi empire. It is the worst humanitarian crisis happening in the world right now, and it is surely becoming one of the worst historic ones that has ever happened. So we're talking about, again, we're not talking about just little numbers here. We're not just talking about one journalist here. 22 million human beings. Holy cow. If you just try to wrap yourself around that number, that is a stunning number, Jason, and that is huge controversy. That, you know, mainstream media doesn't want to talk about, because, like, there's Bruce Jenner there. There's a Bruce Jenner costume that's offensive, Jason.
Yeah, I can't do it, man. You know, these kids, when I see these, again, you look at this picture, it's pretty tough to watch. It's just tough. And when you say 22 million human beings, let me have people grasp that for a second. So if you're in your lecture hall and there's about 220 people, that means 10 of you are not walking out of there. That's how disturbing that is. 10 people don't walk out of that room, and that's all across the country. So
yeah, and that's 22 million people who need humanitarian assistance every day, based off U.S. Saudi coalition fighting there against Houthi rebels that are somewhat to Iran. while the United States is fighting alongside Al Qaeda, literally, as exposed by the Associated Press just a few weeks ago. The U.S.-Saudi coalition is working with Al Qaeda. Again, left-right divide and conquer. This is one of the examples of how great it works and how a real story just gets totally swept underneath the rug. Do you want to move towards Tuesday?
Yeah, because while we're talking about the U.S. military, not only do they carry out some of the most grotesque military missions, because again, school buses are being hit in Yemen. We are picking those targets. We're working hand in hand with the Saudis, but they're also such bloat, such waste. This is tough for me because I know that Luke is going to jump on this one and say, look how inefficient government is. But this is some really inefficient government. The U.S. Air Force still can't explain why it's spending $1,280 on a coffee cup. And this is some kind of a weird metal cup, and it's not just $1,280. They've spent $300,000 on these coffee cups. We're going to scroll down so people can see the magic cup right there. It's made of metal. It's not made of silver or gold, and even if it were, there probably wouldn't be enough of it to make that price make sense. But they can't explain it, and it shows the bloat, the bureaucracy, the stealing, the absurdity. We've seen this from Kellogg, Brown, and Root. We're going to continue to see it because when you're writing blank checks for war, Luke, people see profit and they say, you know what? Can you imagine the amount of profit some jackass is making on that coffee cup? Go ahead, Luke. I know you can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait. If there's anyone in the military who has one of these coffee cups and could maybe make it disappear and send it to our P.O. box, I would greatly appreciate that opportunity to put it on Jason Burmis's desk to remind him of how inefficient, irregular, not reliable, and dumb the U.S. government is, and all government is. Showing you how just big of an extortion racket it actually is, spending $300,000 on a few cup. Again, $1,280 per cup. That's what this military contractor charged our taxes. Your money, Jason. Your hard-earned money that the government takes a portion of and says, it is mine because I, as the government, am a corporate mafia, and I will give you your money to, and you know what? Screw it. We're buying $1,280 coffee cups because we could do that, and we're not even going to tell you why. And guess what? These no-bid contracts, that's fine because we are banging all these military-industrial complexes, just banging each other, and we love each other because we're screwing over people while we're murdering people. Thank government. Thank you.
Are we done? Are we done? Have you had your little rant and rave? Are you happy? Huh? Because obviously...
That's government. That's government, Jason. This is government.
I would just say, again, obviously, I recognize that government is corrupt, and obviously, I recognize the military is corrupt. I obviously recognize that spending $1,280 on a metal cup for coffee is also absurd, hence why I posted this story.
This is why we shouldn't have government. This is why government should not exist, Jason.
Anyhow, people run government. It's disturbing that this is going on. But I'm going to transition into a story that may be a little bit more disturbing. And this is something, Luke, by the way, I was thinking about doing an actual video on earlier in the week and actually had it kind of on the back burner because I can't believe how this got some press coverage, but then everybody swept it under the rug because I can guarantee you if Mike Pence said this, if Donald Trump Jr. said this, if anybody said this, other than Hillary Clinton, their career would be over. It would be done. Their book deals would be done. Their mansion would be on fire from Molotov cocktails. People would be triggered across the nation because this week, Hillary Clinton, while talking about Cory Booker and then Eric Holder, confusing Booker for Holder, said to an interviewer, they all look alike. Now, I've watched this video because when I read the headline, I said to myself, she didn't really make that joke, right? There must be something else. It must have been in a separate context. Well, no, it is not. She really said this. It is really in that poor of taste. I could even pull the video, but I think many people. Have you seen it yet, Luke?
No, I haven't actually seen it at all. Do you have the clip?
Oh, I can get the clip. Here, why don't you just talk about this? Because
Yeah,
can you imagine if Donald Trump said this? Go ahead.
I kind of wanted to riff with you a little bit, but don't worry, get the clip ready. I mean, this is no surprise from the Clintons. They're the ones that called African Americans super predators when, of course, Bill Clinton was in office. Bill Clinton put in a lot of the laws, the 3-strike laws, and has propped it up, the military-industrial complex, during his presidency, which has seen a huge increase of the prison population in the United States. They were able to pass NAFTA. If you look at all the policy changes of the Clintons, they were extremely detrimental, not only to the people of this country, but more specifically to the African American community that they, of course, presided over when, of course, Hillary Clinton was vice president, to her husband, Bill Clinton, who just gobbled down any corporate crap propaganda and political moves for his favor, for his buddies when he was president of the United States. So it doesn't surprise that Clinton's making these kind of comments. Again, I'm not one to scold anyone. Comments, we all say stupid things sometimes. I don't, it's whatever. But the bigger story is the hypocrisy that this is, and is highlighted here with the mainstream media choosing what you should and shouldn't be outraged about. Because if the media decided to make this a very specific case that you're supposed to get angry about, oh, yeah, that they would. But because they're not, and because the few people who control the discourse are like, yeah, it's cool, it's Hillary, it's fine, super predators called blacks, the prison industrial complex, selling out black jobs and screwing over African Americans more than the other presidency. Yeah, it's okay because she's on our side. Bull crap. Absolutely ridiculous what's happening here.
So let's play it. Here she is behind me. Oh, I've got it. And I want to point this out. These guys look totally and completely different. Cory Booker looks like the half-bastard brother of The Rock selling cars. And Eric Holder looks like, I'm trying to think, what does Eric Holder look like? I can't think of anybody notable. He's got that mustache. He's got a mustache, he's got a full head of hair. They don't look anything alike whatsoever, folks. So here's Hill Dog with her comment.
I don't want to go around insulting people. I don't want to paint with a broad brush. Every immigrant is this, every African American is that, every other person with different religious beliefs or whatever. That's childish.
What do you think of Cory Booker's? And you didn't comment on him, and you feel free.
Oh, I adore him.
What do you think about him saying kick them in the shins, essentially? Start to get to that kind of political.
Well, that was Eric Holder.
Yeah, Eric Holder.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know they all look alike.
No, they don't.
Whoa! I know they all look alike. No, they don't. No, they don't. The woman interviewing her, at least, Luke. No, they don't. No, they do not. You're not going to ruin my career here, Hillary Clinton. No, they do not all look alike. And the fact that she said that, Luke, and the way she said it so nonchalantly, I know how she speaks in private. And by the way, I don't think she's a white supremacist at all. Obviously her relationship with Huma Abedin, wink, wink, shows that. But
what are you alleging at there?
Oh, I think you know what I'm alleging. But we'll keep it clean.
Hold on, before we go, I do have to say Eric Holder does look like a sloth. If you look at a sloth and you look at Eric Holder's face, there's an extreme resemblance that does need to be commented on. Go ahead.
So, again, my point is this. Hillary Clinton is not a good person. Had Mike Pence said this, had Donald Trump said this, we'd still be hearing about it today. We wouldn't be able to escape it. It would be on the front. The media, CNN, would froth at the mouth and milk the tits of 1,000 cows with their mouths to have Donald Trump say something like this. That's how eager they would be. That's how I feel about it, Luke. And I really don't like... I don't really like the double standard, and I'm not trying to defend Trump here, but I know that if this were not Hillary Clinton, if this were someone on the right that said this, their career would be over.
Well, again, the story here is the hypocrisy, not that she said it, because, I mean, you could say a whole bunch of things. I mean, Cory Booker looks like Vin Diesel. Uh, a cracked out version of Vin Diesel. Let's just call it like it is here. You know, it's fine to make comments and generalizations and to actually try to laugh at things. I don't see anything wrong with that. But the hypocrisy, the mainstream media picking and selecting story is the bigger story here. That should be highlighted. You want to move on to, what is it, Wednesday's story now?
Yeah, this is it. This is the one I couldn't wait to talk about, Luke. So what we're looking at here is a Kaspersky paper entitled The Memory Market.
Kaspersky paper?
So this paper is on the future of, it's a think tank that deals with DARPA, our good friends at DARPA. Everybody loves the DARPA. The memory market, preparing for a future where cyber threats target your past. And what they're talking about is brain chip technology, real technology that exists today. It's only a 9-page paper. And they're talking about chips that exist today that ease you with pain. There are IGP chips they talk about that are already in patients with Parkinson's. And these chips are not only wired into your brain, but then have an attachment into your clavicle. And they're accessed wirelessly. Let me repeat that. They're accessed...
To simplify it, because you lost me there.
So some of these chips are not just as simple as, say, the grain of rice chip that you have seen implanted in somebody's hand for your brain. Some of them are actually attached to certain neurons, and then the chip is run down like an electrical source into their clavicle where there's an antenna so that it can be accessed by another remote device. And they're doing this with people with Parkinson's in particular. This is how they're curing Parkinson's. They're letting them access their brains, access their memories. Well, guess what? It's hackable. And this paper is all about being able to not only control your mind, suggest things to you, control memories, paralyze you physically. I mean, I could keep going on, and they're saying this is all a reality. In fact, they cite a study from 2012, Luke, where they admitted that brain waves that they were able to access through these implants. This is a 2012 study. I want to read it right here. In 2012, an experiment showed that observing P300 brain waves can leak information such as PIN codes from our brains using commercially available headsets. So what does that mean? Well, that means that if you can access, which they were able to do, a P300 brainwave from somebody that had this device on, these headsets that I'm wearing right now could get your PIN number. And this is a study from 6+ years ago. All right.
I want it, Jason.
What's that?
I want it.
You want it? You want the brain chip?
Yeah, just get it for me, man. Let's get this thing. So this brain chip could actually, know and be inside of your brain and remember your life if you go through
No. Let me try to explain a little bit better. The chip makes somebody with another device able to hack your brain. So not only get your past information.
Why would someone put something in their brain to be hacked?
Because it helps them with Parkinson's. Or let's say this. What if they said, hey, here's your brain chip. It's going to allow your brain to not only make your body think you're younger, but then produce more testosterone. All these different things. They're really, first of all, look at this part. Future risk predictions. They're saying within 20 years or so, this technology could be advanced enough to allow extensive control over your memories. So, Luke, you could think to yourself, oh man, I love my moms and pops. They raised me so right. I'm a good man. And you could have been beaten to death in a foster home your entire life. I had no idea. The implications of brain implants.
Jason, if you had this power and you had the power to hack anyone's brain chip, whose brain chip you would hack and what false memory would you put in there?
I would not do anything of the
sort.
After
Trump, right? Let's say Trump has one of these brain chips and you get to hack his brain and make him believe one thing. What do you make him believe?
What do I make Trump believe? Well, since I wouldn't do any such thing, and this is all just kind of hearsay, I would make him believe that his one sexual encounter with Stormy Daniels, when she did the big reveal, she had a 14-inch horse penis.
What? You have a chance to save the world, Jason. And
how does that save the world?
With horse dongles.
What could I possibly? What could I possibly? Any memory I put in there isn't gonna. Like if I put in the memory, hey, I'm really gonna release the JFK information. He still isn't really gonna release the JFK information. So it's more for control over people. It's more to bend their will, make them do things.
Well, yeah, if you could hack people's memories, which this obviously every technological advancement does have many vulnerabilities. Hold on, I gotta change my batteries out of my camera really quickly. But yeah, come on, horse penises, Jason.
Again, since I'm not hacking anybody's brain, and I don't think there would be anything beneficial for me to try to manipulate Donald Trump, I just thought I'd say something that was ridiculous and funny.
Donald Trump.
What's that?
If you could manipulate Donald Trump.
But why would I want to manipulate Donald Trump? What could I listen? My other point is me implanting false memories in him, no matter how traumatic or how actionable. For instance,
I think my camera's back. Is my camera back?
Yeah, your camera's back. But let's say this
in the comment section. Let's hack Luke's nose.
What about this?
Just technically say it's like we're like in a movie and we like hack this company. And we have their abilities in this company, and everyone has a microchip, and Donald Trump has a microchip, and you have the ability to implant one memory into Donald Trump. What would it be?
All right, let's say this. Let's say I could implant the memory that Donald Trump was witness to an unthinkable slaughter that occurred in Yemen. Do you think, even though, like, he was right there when an entire bus blew up, and and there was nobody around, and he was trying to pull kids out. Even if I implanted that memory, Luke, right? Do you think that we would not sell those weapons to Saudi Arabia? Think he'd have the power not to do it? No, I don't think so. We got old puppet sauce up in there, no matter who gets in there at some level. He couldn't even release the JFK information. We still don't have the uncensored IG reports. We still don't have the initial indictment papers that they used to illegally spy on the man, and that directly affects him. So in some cases, and that's something you should have brought up with Cernovich, by the way, how much power does this guy really have? He talked a big game. He talked an Epstein game. And I thought that was great that you brought that up. And then Cernovich reveals that Roger Stone is the source for the Epstein-Bannon story. The plot thickens, man. So when you see these guys at those top levels, I think that you could implant, like, what could you implant in Roger Stone's brain to not make him a deceptive rat? Let's call him what he is. Could you implant anything? What could you do?
I don't think you could get into his brain. I think as soon as you try to get into his brain, it would explode in like a self-defense mechanism. I don't want to be in there. That's a dirty, dirty place.
It's a dirty, dirty place. All right, so let's continue on. And folks, we're still taking the super chats. And after we finish up these stories, we are going to give out the number to everybody to call in. So be ready for the calls.
Yep.
This one's another heartfelt, great story about technology, Luke. Warehouse, the size of 5 football pitches, of course they're talking about soccer fields, in China, is the first in the world to be run exclusively by what? Robots. That's right. Here's the lovely little place. No human beings, no big deal. This is the Chinese economy. Okay, forget about just the slave economy. They are bringing in automation, and this is going to make its way to the West. It is a matter of time, and we're seeing it more and more and more often. I'm reporting on more and more of these stories as the minutes, days, weeks, and months go by, Luke. And here we have an entire factory in China completely automated, my friend.
Well, what about your government and the roads that they build for you, Jason? Won't they help us?
No, it's not a government issue because let me tell you something. Again, people run the government. People run the government. You know what doesn't run the factory? People. People are just making the decisions to have robots run the factory, just like people are making decisions to have drones be automated by Google programming and then bomb certain targets. These are problems. They're problems
I think
people are creating.
I think, Jason, you're an anarchist and don't even notice it. Just like Jessie Smith said right now with our super chat. Thank you so much, Jessie, $5. She said, listen to Jason making the point that all presidents are puppets. It's almost as if you are ... an anarchist, question mark.
No, it's almost as if I can say that large institutions are corrupt, and when you get to the government level, on any level, there is no powerful, all-powerful dictator. Even Putin is not an all-powerful dictator in his country. Xi Jinping in China is not an all-powerful dictator.
That was racist, Jason, the way you said that name.
Okay, I don't know why, but okay. My point is this. We now live in a world where technology is moving at a breakneck speed. Large factories are now becoming fully automated. Your McDonald's is becoming fully automated. The future, we have brain chips that are hackable. The future is looking very grim for human beings unless we step up to the plate and put some limitations on this. And unfortunately, Luke, in order to do that, we're probably going to have to use a little thing called government.
And that government's never going to do it. And I definitely don't see the government.
So then how do we do it?
Ahead of a problem with technological advancements, which they are always so behind. You know how many years it took to even regulate a seatbelt, Jason? How many years cars were out there and existed before the seatbelt? Which, again, I think if people don't want to wear seatbelts, they shouldn't be wearing seatbelts, and it shouldn't be used as a damn scheme for the road pirates, a.k.a. the police, to go out there and to arrest you for or give you a ticket for having a little piece of rubber around your darn body. Again, that should be a choice.
You know what you need in your life, Luke? You need a little live PD in your life. Let me tell you what I watched on Live PD this week. Okay.
What's Live PD?
Oh, it trends every time. It's on every Friday and Saturday. If you get some time, A&E, some trash television, some Live PD. Let me tell you why police exist.
Live, like we're live right now.
They shoot it live across the country, and they cut to different. Like they have like 7 departments, and then they cut to these departments, and you watch. Sometimes, for instance, this week on Live PD, they pulled somebody over. They ended up letting him go. Now he said he was buying the car. The cop was kind of cool with him. He let him drive away with the car. He said he was in the process of buying it. Then another officer gets a call from the man he stole the car from because somebody who was watching Live PD saw his stolen truck on television. That is real. Okay, that is just one of the instances why we need police officers. Let me tell you the serious one that I saw on Live PD that really let me remember how crazy people really are. They pulled over a van, okay? I mean, full guard, cops everywhere, guns out, get out of the vehicle, hands on the head, step back, woman, man, very calm man when they took him out. By the way, all the man requested after this whole ordeal was done was to try to get his Bible out of the front seat. Asked if the officer was a Christian. You know what else they found in that car, Luke? His ex-girlfriend wrapped up, literally still wrapped up in tears, being like, oh my God, thank you. Because he went to her house with his current girlfriend, snatched her out of the house. Thank God someone saw it and called the police, gave them a description of the vehicle, tied her up and tried to take her across state lines. There are sickos out there, man. We need some kind of law enforcement.
Yes, there are sickos out there, but the main argument I'm making here is it took a very long time for the U.S. government to even institute seatbelt laws, which they're really just extortion efforts to steal your money for revenue collection for the state. But as far as regulation to technological advancements, it is not an easy topic and not an easy procedure for government to do anything with, which is perfect for me. That's the way I prefer government to be. But if you think government's going to do something about this factory of robot workers and it's going to do it efficiently and it's going to do it for your benefit, you got another thing coming. And we definitely have two different experiences because when I watch Cops, I never heard of your show Live PD, but I definitely want to check it out. But when I watch Cops, I'm always like, Shut up, shut up. You got the First Amendment. That's the Fourth Amendment violation. Oh my God, what did he just do to the Ninth Amendment? I'm always going crazy, screaming at the TV, being like, shut up. Don't say anything. Stop doing that. And then people are just absolute idiots. And a lot of times it's just victimless crimes. About 80 to 90% of the times that I'm watching these police shows, it's always criminal drug offenders because they want to take a little substance or a little drug, whether it's whatever they want to take. It's people putting stuff in their own bodies and an officer swatting him down, beating the crap out of him, being like, hey, yeah, you can't do anything you want with your body. We're in charge of you. You toxic.
Okay. All right. So
go to work. Stop
Luke,
doing drugs. Numb your pain of how effed up society is because we're working for the controllers and keeping society in check, beating the crap out of them 80% of the times. Sure, about 18 to 15% of the time it's a violent crook, but that's rare. It's mostly druggies, okay? It's mostly people just putting stuff in their bodies, and which every human being should have the right to.
All right, so we're going to have one more little live PD story for you. Just one more. Because, you made the drug argument, right? Obviously, I'm one of the guys that's against the drug war. Likes libertarianism in that respect. Thinks that most of it should be decriminalized. Let's talk about another person that was on live PD that doesn't fit this description of violent. And by the way, I'm the first person to speak out against police corruption, violence, beating somebody up. I watched a video of a guy with cuffs behind him. He was clearly talking smack, ready to spit in the officer's face, and they started duffing him in the face. They shouldn't have done that. I can see where they were frustrated. That's disturbing behavior. Another live PD moment. They roll up on a car accident in the middle of the freeway. This guy is freaking out because his wife is hurt or his girlfriend is hurt, and he is mad. He says he got into an Uber, and there's the Uber driver, by the way, and the Uber said, buckle up because I like to go fast. He then slammed on the gas at 90 miles an hour, weaving in and out of traffic, ignoring lights, and then slamming into the back of another vehicle. All right. You need someone to take care of that at some point. He wasn't robbing anybody. There's also crazy to deal with. I'm just saying institutions labeled as government are not inherently evil.
To deal with, but if we're using problems of humanity with humanity to fix those problems, you're also going to have a lot of crazy and dumb people a part of the institutions trying to solve those things. Because just like you don't have faith in a lot of people and you want government, Jason, you got to understand here, the government is made up of the same incapable people as is our society.
I don't disagree. They're people. I get it. That's my point, though. People.
They're perfect. And someone who is as reckless as that Uber driver, there's probably someone else out there who's on the other end, who's a police officer, who's just as reckless. There's good officers, there's bad officers. They are a reflection of our society, a society that you don't trust, Jason. And I trust our society.
Oh, you're cute.
I trust you wonderful, beautiful people, human beings out there. And I know that you have responsibility to have faith and do the right thing. Unlike Jason.
And our next story.
Another story about how government allowed big tech giants.
I was about to take your side a little bit here.
So it's illegal to compete against them in the free market. Now, is that the story you wanted to talk about, Jason?
Well, I want to point out that this gentleman here, Tim Berners-Lee, is one of the men that actually invented the World Wide Web. Yes, he's not Al Gore talking about a series of tubes. He's one of the guys in 1989 that actually brought the internet into fruition. And he's one of the guys that's been talking about building a new decentralized web because and one of the quotes I want to read, I actually did a small video. This was part of my Apu video on the backup channel. Make sure you subscribe to Pulse Change for all the stuff we do. But this is a scary, scary quote. Are you ready for this one, Luke? All right. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Facebook have a combined market capitalization of $3.7 trillion, which is equal to Germany's GDP last year. Now, the problem with these companies is that they're not private companies at all. They are part of the technopoly. They work arm in arm, hand in hand with most government agencies. And even though Tim Cook has now been kind of tiptoeing around the media saying, hey, We're different. We're Apple. We're not Google. We're not giving up all your information. And any of these social media companies like Facebook or Twitter that say they need all this stuff, they're lying to you. They're the ones that are literally lockstep, arm in arm with China and Chinese censorship and overall censorship in search engines and social media platforms. So they ain't good either. And the thing is that they should be broken up, but we haven't even had the threat in this country of a breakup of a tech monopoly since Microsoft, when they decided, hey, we're going to take some of our money, we're going to bail out Apple. That's right, they bailed Apple out in the late 90s. Bill Gates said, I'm going to join the Council on Foreign Relations. I'm going to start the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and I'm going to move my work away from just technology, but into philanthropy and, yes, eugenics. And that's when they left Microsoft alone. And eventually Google came along and usurped a lot of Microsoft's business. So, Gates' argument out there that any company could come along and disrupt them was true in that sense. But we're seeing that that's no longer true in this day and age when a platform like InfoWars can't challenge the mainstream media establishment anymore because they're not allowed on social media platforms and they're not allowed to take money from PayPal. And sites like Gab.ai that are challenging Twitter can no longer even be hosted by GoDaddy services or take payments from PayPal. That's outright monopolistic censorship, and that's what we've come to. So I can't really disagree with Berners-Lee here. Luke, what do you think?
Well, it's all because of government, Jason. Government that empowered these big tech monopolies that they're working one-on-one with, that they give tax incentives to, that they give their nice little socialism to, that they give their little tax credits to, that created this problem. And it created it on purpose, and that's why they work hand in hand against the best interest of civil discourse, discussion, and humanity progressing with, of course, free speech and the discussions of political ideas without any form of censorship. Those are the opposite of ideas that government stands for, that these big corporate tech monopolies stand for. And that's why we have this current situation and this current problem that they're dealing with, because of your government, Jason.
All right. And with that being said, let's get to our last story. Not going to see this one in the mainstream media, not going to hear about it in the alternative media except for here exclusively at WeAreChange. In fact, the only place that you heard it was a local college paper, the Colgate Maroon News. And why is that? Because Alan Dershowitz is speaking at Colgate tomorrow. And earlier in the week, some students said to themselves, hey, wait a minute. I don't like Alan Dershowitz. Alan Dershowitz is an accused child rapist who defended Jeffrey Epstein and was named by some of his victims as part of that sex trafficking ring.
Wasn't he also listed on the private jet?
Yes.
Of Jeffrey Epstein with, of course, Bill Clinton and Kevin Spacey.
Clinton.
Kevin Spacey, the admitted pedophile.
He hasn't. Well, he kind of admitted. He apologized for it. He said, I'm sorry for my actions. He never said, hey, I like underage boys. Right now, Bohemian Rhapsody, I believe it opened at #1. Bryan Singer directed. There's no outrage. We still haven't seen that Esquire story. My point is here that this got absolutely no mainstream media coverage, no alternative media coverage. Why isn't it getting alternative media coverage? Well, tomorrow's news today loves Trump, and so does Alan Dershowitz. That's how this thing works. That's why Epstein's meeting with Bannon. And Mike Cernovich referred to it as rat effing. Again, family show. They're rat effing. Well, Dershowitz seems to have cut a deal as he was kind of anti-Trump prior to Trump getting in office, and now he defends him every chance he gets. And you never hear Epstein, his name raised in a negative manner by Trump, his administration, those that are constantly promoting him. So I'm going to keep an eye on this. I hope that, listen, if there's anybody that actually goes out there and protests Dershowitz tomorrow, I promise you this, even if the mainstream media doesn't cover it, WeAreChange will, and we would be honored to have you on one of our programs to talk about it. Luke?
Yeah, don't even just protest it. Go out there with a video camera, dress nicely, go to the event, put a cell phone in his face when you see him, shake his hand, look him in the eyes, and be like, let's talk about Jeffrey Epstein and your relationship with him and you on the Lolita Express. What do you have to say about yourself and all the accusations made against you? Do that. And I just made it up in the top of my head. If you guys do that, seriously, where is this place, Jason?
Colgate University, which
Where the hell
city?
is that? Is that like the Colgate like dentistry office or something?
You are ridiculous.
Where the hell's Colgate?
Where is the? I want to say it was in Massachusetts, but I might be totally wrong. So before I, let's see. They have.
I up my CBD dosages, so that's probably.
What does that even mean? You up your CBD dosages? What does that have to do with you not knowing where a state is or a university?
I now have Girl Scouts cookies CBD vape.
Disgusting.
That's 1,000 milligrams.
1,000 milligrams. That's great.
Yeah, that's the new one that I've been trying today. Makes me a little bit relaxed. If there's a vape company out there that wants to sponsor, especially a CBD one, sponsor WeAreChange, I am all ears.
Oh, it's in New York. It's in Hamilton.
Human beings. I think that would be great. Come on, Jason. It's just the Google search. I'm doing it right now.
No, I already got it. He's in Hamilton, New York.
Where the hell's Hamilton, New York?
I think it's like
is that by you?
I think it's an hour and a half, 2 hours. Wait, it could be Boston. Wait, no, it took on Boston University. Yeah, it's probably like 2 hours from me.
And I'm the one being silly.
New York's a big state, bro. What can I tell you? Like, I don't know all this stuff.
Everything from the Bronx above is Canada to me.
Oh my
You're
God.
in Canada. All
Guys,
right? It's cold. It's terrible up there.
You're killing me.
It's Canada.
All right, so we're going to give out the number. We're going to take some calls.
If you go past the Bronx, all disingenuous people. All Canadians.
That's so untrue. The soul of America up there, folks. 607-542-9184. 607-542-9184. If you want to talk about any of the stories we went over, you want to talk about anything else, you disagree with us, you do agree with us, you want to get something out there, there's the number, 607-542-9184. And,
put it in the comment section, Jason, and we have a comment by one of our members, Monopoly wow, and he says, watch what happens when substrained tantrum.net releases their decentralized internet platform. Even though we talk about a lot of the problems, there are a lot of exciting solutions to the problems we are facing. And even though Amazon, Google, Facebook dominate the market, there's a lot of competitors. And with how unpredictable everything is, I think it's only a matter of time that, just like MySpace came down, that hopefully Google and Facebook and Twitter, all of those, I think, platforms will reach their end and their demise pretty shortly.
I certainly think that there are going to be challengers, especially in the video market. I was lucky enough to be featured last week on the BitChute creators platform. I think BitChute is one of those platforms that is getting big enough that hopefully in the next couple of years you'll see them challenge YouTube. With Facebook, I think the writing is on the wall that they want Zuckerberg out, and they want someone else to be in control of that social media conglomerate. It could disappear. Again, MySpace disappeared. I think that the video realm, though, is really, you've already seen Vine come up. You've seen Snapchat come up. You've seen other platforms of video orientation be embraced by the public. So I hope that BitChute is that next platform. Get a little bit slicker of an app, a few more options out there, and I really think that it could be a rival to YouTube.
There's a lot of out there. There's BitChute, there's Real.tube, there's DTube, there's Steemit. Gab got hit, but did you happen to find out what happened in Gab? Because I know they were taken down by their hosting server provider. Were they put back up by any chance?
I don't think they've been put back up, not that I've seen.
All right, I'm going to check right now.
Okay.
What is it, just gab.com?
I think it's gab.ai.
Yeah. No, it looks like it's up.
So they are back up.
Yeah, it looks like it's up. It's just create account.
Maybe they found
I never got a chance to create an account. Yeah, it's gab.com and gab.ai.
Jesse Schmidt knows with that super chat. Thank you, Jesse. Gab is back up. It seems that way. So it must be a backup in the last few days, because it got taken down late last week. I think like Saturday or Sunday. Last Saturday, I think.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're only going to give you so much time to call in. 607-542-9184. We've already been rocking this an hour and 43 minutes. 607-542-9184. If you want to explain to Luke that, unfortunately, government is a necessary evil, I'd love to hear you.
I don't believe in any necessary evil, because you're just purporting the evil and allowing more evil to happen there, Jason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Where do you get your CBD oil? Well, there's a number of just CBD like dispensaries. Where was I? Las Vegas. Las Vegas has a whole bunch of places, but you again have to ask specifically for CBD. THC actually has a negative effect on me, believe it or not. A lot of people has a positive psychedelic high effect. For me, it just doesn't make me feel good. So I've been just mainly using CBD, which has a lot of medical benefits. There is also the argument that CBD is kind of pointless unless you have the THC to activate it, which also I do find interesting. But so far, I think I've been able to see positive effects personally myself. But again, every body is different. Well, a lot of the things that you have to understand when you're discerning information is understanding what is right for you is not always right for somebody else. And I think that's a big aspect, especially in major health and fitness websites. Everyone has a different genetic code that they're brought up with, different parts of the world that they're born in, different pigments, different skins, different dietary preferences, different ways that they process stress and trauma. And you have to understand here, if something's right for you, it doesn't mean it's right for everybody else. And you have to remember that when, especially when it comes to giving out broader general medical advice. Just like THC affects me negatively, there could be CBD that affects people negatively just the same way. So I think that's a very important aspect to bring up, because I have been looking into a lot of the health and wellness stuff and participating with it and kind of playing around with it. I've been doing a whole bunch of different therapies and a bunch of different alternative treatments and a whole bunch of different stuff. But I've been reluctant to share them, mainly because of always having to do this kind of big disclaimer, like, hey, just make sure that you don't go balls in to whatever therapy, and you take things slowly and you test it out and understand to do what is always right for your body. It's not always an easy thing to teach people to listen to their gut, to listen to their intuition, and to just take things slowly. It's not usually a very common human trait, but I think if more people had that, I think we'll be a lot better off. And that's why with everything, I just take my time and just take things slowly. We got another super chat by Jesse Schmidt. Do you want to get this one, Jason?
Yeah, because I think it's a great idea. Do you think Trump could fund the border wall with a GoFundMe-style setup? You could sell it to the dumb by giving a commemorative trinket in return. I'm thinking like a Trump plate. Remember when those Elvis plates were big during the late 80s, early 90s, late-night TV shows? Again, Luke's not like me, so apparently he's never been in a trailer park, but I can assure you, you go into a trailer park of not only the regular folk, but older people live in the trailer park. Plenty of Elvis commemorative plates and plenty of Billy Bass on the wall. So, Jesse, I think it's ingenious.
In one trailer park. I was in one trailer park. I did a police officer ride-along in Miami on a Friday, where I was actually able to ride along one of my friends who we actually videotaped him in there. You made me reminded me of the time that I was in the trailer park and this toothless whore was trying to sleep with all of us. And I was like, "What the fuck?" Oh, sorry. Oh, excuse me. So, excuse my French there. I was like, "What is my life right now?" As I'm in this trailer park and this toothless person is hitting on us. After it was a domestic abuse case, but she wasn't domestically abused. She just wanted some attention from the officers, and the officers were throwing them off of each other. And I was there just watching the damn thing until I became a perpetrated victim of the entire situation. Once again, sorry, apologies for the French language there. Sorry, continue on with your story, Jason.
No, I mean, I don't really have much more of a story. Jesse Schmidt says, laugh out loud.
GoFundMe idea.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I said it was great. I'm just pointing out that, it'd be great to get one. Like, the Trump people would love a Trump plate. Like Trump hugging a baby, or Trump and Melania looking off into the wind, or, people, if they pledge enough, they not only get the Trump and Melania plate, but they get the Don Jr. and the Ivanka plate as well. It could be a set. $20, you just get Trump with a MAGA hat on. He's making America great again. $40, you get the couple. $100, you get the whole family. Brilliant idea, Jesse. I think it's great. And I think they'd have that wall built in no time. But again, if they really wanted to build...
Because you're a supporter of the wall, and I'm not, for the record.
Oh, boy. Here we go again. Again, I don't think it should be like the Palestinian... Israeli wall. I don't think that's the
You would
answer.
love your name on that wall, Jason, wouldn't you? You just tell the truth here. That big government wall.
Tell you what, if it was set up the way I wanted it to, with shopping centers and malls, I'd be happy to open Burmis Builders Beer and Pizzeria right in the little plaza that the wall is attached to. And then we could have the good folks coming and going from the country have a great meal on their way in or out from Jason Burmis. How about that, Luke?
Then what's the point of having a wall?
What's that? Well, the wall would be a regulation center.
Jason's Pizzeria in there.
Again, if you made it more like a place of commerce along this area, an immigration station, a place of commerce, and not a place where we're seeing there's barbed wire at the top. He's got a gun. You better shoot that brown man on the other side. That's not what I'm envisioning with the wall. I think that we could make it.
There's going to be one free pizza for every shot there, Jason.
Nobody wants free pizzas for shooting people, Luke. Doesn't look like we're going to get any calls. I don't know, brother.
You want to have a pizzeria right on the border when you support the wall.
It'd be the best damn pizzeria on the border.
You want to have a little pizza party at the border when you're keeping the Mexicans out. Is that what you're saying, Jason?
Again, just because it's a wall, it's very odd that it's just keeping the Mexicans out, Luke, when we know this caravan has a lot of other people. It's odd you said that. That's all I'm going to say.
We had a discussion about this before. Not just Mexicans, Ecuadorians, Nicaraguans, people whose countries were destabilized, but that's a whole other topic. And mainly come here and stay here through airport travel, which is a big story and a big factor that a lot of people don't like to talk about. But that's why the wall's kind of ineffective to me. I'm kind of against it. Jason is for it, but that's a whole nother issue. We got another super chat by Jesse Smith saying, "Lo, I grew up in a trailer house." Yeah, that's one of the stories that I had in there. I'm trying to think if I had more stories in a trailer park. Jason, have you had more stories in a trailer park?
Yeah, I sure have, but I'm not going to get into them right now. Jesse Schmidt with the follow-up, and we thank you so much. People would donate time constructing the wall as well. I believe that. Hell, I would go just for the experience and Snapchat material. You guys should make this a thing. Commemorative plaque on the wall with a $200 donation. Well, obviously, if you want to go above and beyond the $100 donation and get the whole plate set, I would think that, yeah, you need to get like a signed plaque. And even you get to have a selfie with Trump. Like if you show up in the wall, you're a donor, and you show up for construction just one of those days when Trump's going to be there, all the big donors also get that selfie, and it's big, it's huge. We build that wall.
I am not for the wall as propositioned by Donald Trump, but if this voluntary idea would happen, I would support it on its merits because it's a voluntary idea and how I believe government should be practiced voluntarily instead of extortion, threat, fear, and at the possibility of you being hurt, thrown in jail, or murdered for not following the government's orders like Jason does.
Well, I'm going to disagree with that, but whatever. What can I tell you? Jails need to happen. Police need to be there. I'm a checks and balances guy. I don't like corruption, but I also know that people
that's what you get when you have government. There's corruption only because of government, Jason. And if we all had a voluntary...
I know. There was never, again, we went over this. There was never any corruption before government.
Hold on. We got another important super chat. And I wanted to mention this, and I never got the chance This is by Sean Rufus, and he says, "Why you block people?" First of all, we're not blocking anyone. I'm seeing in the chat room that there's a bunch of redacted comments. I didn't touch anything.
Nope.
I don't.
I haven't touched
Jason,
it.
are you touching anything?
Nope. And I
No,
know you were
people
saying
have to
that before you go
understand
into the program.
YouTube now censors and edits comments live as they happen. They also donate super chats if they don't agree with them to whatever organization or nonprofit that they believe in. So you have to understand here, we're not censoring anything. If you ever got your comment blocked on We Are Change, it wasn't us, because we believe in free speech. We're free speech absolutists. I don't think I have ever censored any comment that I could ever remember off the top of my head, because we would just be hypocrites if we would be deleting any discourse that we disagree with, even though it is manipulated and there are government bots. But it's important to always have the free platform out there and the free conversations out there that we are not against. YouTube is, and we are not blocking people. So yes, there you go. That's a response to Sean Rufus. Last two super chats. Do you want to get through them?
Yeah,
And,
Rumple Depoo. Rumple Depoo. I love the name. This better be a good program. I am putting off having my girlfriend rug doctor my back to watch this. Well, I am sympathetic, sir, that you have
doctor?
He's saying that he has a built-in sweater, Luke, that he has some back hair, and I'm guessing that she was either going to nair or do something else to get it off. Hey, I wouldn't put it off too much longer. We've been rocking for almost 2 hours. You can catch the podcast available tomorrow morning on both iTunes and our website if you just want to listen to what we have to say. But I love the name, Rumpley Depew, and I hope that whatever happens to your back hair, my friend, it's a gentle procedure. Do we have one more? Yes, I believe Anthony Jenks didn't say anything, but he threw us a bone, and I appreciate that. Luke, you got anything else?
I'm waiting for The Walking Dead. This is supposed to be Rick Grimes' last episode today, and I'm really excited, and I can't wait to watch it. And that's how I'm just going to distract myself for the next hour before doing more work. So definitely stay tuned. Jason, thank you so much for dealing with me and my ridiculousn's. Appreciate your time and effort. You've been doing a lot of great, amazing work. We got a lot more work to do. It never ends. I think I'm going to go off to London or Amsterdam this week because I have to be at Steamfest. Steamfest is happening in Krakow, Poland, which I'm going to be at in just a few days. So if you guys are in the area, definitely go check out that event or hit me up on my social media. We'd love to talk to you, do some stories in Europe next week. So I just wanted to thank everyone for watching and super chatting and being here. And if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be here. And that's why I love you. Jason, anything else you want to say?
I just want to encourage people to go check out the backup channel that is Pulse Change. Hit the notifications on both of these channels. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out the Facebook page. Share those stories. But Luke, most importantly, be the change they want to see in the world.
Yes, I totally agree. Love you guys. Stay tuned for more. Bam.